Hey everybody, welcome. We're live for another masterclass session. Today we're going to be showing power users both how to create a Sideview tower map using the line and shape tools with the fantasy battle map style, as well as how to run a session or briefly run a session on one of these types of maps. Because the first question that comes to mind for people when they see a map like this is, why should I use a map like this? What function does it serve in my tabletop or VTT session? Because it's not particularly practical when it comes to combat. That's why you would generally have like a separate battle map on the side. Where this type of map shines in particular is exploration. So, and what I mean by exploration is your players can explore going room to room with the specific intention generally of trying to propel the main story arc of your campaign forward. Or you can use it as a one-shot, and I find that players like them both. Hey, first-time chatter, Gaming Reject, glad that you're here. Yeah, so I mean, the reason is that this is a great map for these types of maps are great for exploration, but they also work as like tracking. Let's say that you have a tower battle maps and you want to show a side view so that way you can correlate each battle map one side by side with each room. You could do that. Or if you just like making side view or cross-sectional buildings, this stream will also be for you. So it kind of serves multiple functions. It's art. It is a functional map if you know how to run it properly, which I will explain. And it's just fun all around to make, I personally think. So first, let me explain a little bit on how exactly I would run a campaign on this particular map, just to give you a general idea. I'm not going to go in full detail. I'll just briefly go over the general idea. Now, if you're running this on a VTT, this is a very simple setup. It's just you as a DM have a keyed map of this particular map with the DM notes, and then you have a separate map like this without the key and the notes that it kind of explain what's going on in each room. So that's your basic VTT setup. Now, if you're doing this in tabletop without VTT, if you're doing it in person, then you're going to have two monitors. One monitor showing what the players see, and another monitor facing you, the DM, giving you all the DM key and notes that you're going to be having. So this is the basic setup when you're running it. And this is how I would basically start it out. And for this one, what I normally do in this one is I do not have players control movement in the more exploration. I'll usually move their token or move the screen to show what room they're in if there's movement at all. This is entirely up to you. You have to decide whether or not you want to have your players have free movement. And if there is free movement, then you'll have to come up with special homebrew, special rules with movement. That's why I generally just take control of the movement of the players myself here, and to make sure that I don't take away their autonomy, because players like choices. I'll make sure that players still have choices where moving in which direction, where they want to go, what they're going to be doing. I'm not taking any autonomy away from my players. Players do not like it when you take away their choices. So make sure that you give lots of options for your players when you're doing it. And then again, if they do have like a hankering for more movement and combat, you would make a separate battle map for whatever room the combat's going to take place in. So all those kind of things are important to factor in. So what I would do is I would have my players start here at the staircase here, and they would be making their movement, or they would move and meet this like an NPC or maybe some kind of centerpiece in this area that's going to be adding context to what this map is going to be about, right? So this person right here that I've created is going to probably talk to you, and they're probably going to explain what's going to be taking place on this map. The first thing players encounter on in a map like this in a session is they need to know what exactly is going to be taking place here. Otherwise, they're going to get a little lost. So a conversation with the NPC explaining that perhaps the tower is free to explore. Just beware of the basement. There's like a rat infestation down here, a giant rat infestation. So I would have some kind of battle map available for this basement floor right here. And then I would have the rest of the building not have any combat, unless you want to have the rats maybe travel somewhere in the map and they go up and you can have combat. So again, to make sure to have a separate battle map on the side. That's it. So from the staircase, after talking with this person right here, then they would move on to that next step, which is they would move their way into the structure, into this first room. And in this first room, this is where I make some introductory type of things, where I might want to introduce like a puzzle or a part of a puzzle by putting certain objects or items in the room that players need to discover or collect for allow them to either move forward or to access an important part of the thing. And this is a great opportunity to also use it as a guide for your theater of mind, right? So as you are trying to explain this room, sure, players have visuals, but this gives you an opportunity to explain more of the room, like maybe the sense of smell that the players will lack because it's just for visuals, or maybe the sounds that they hear within this room. This is a great exercise right here for you to work on your storytelling capabilities, describing a room and just kind of explaining what's taking place here. So that first room is like a room that's going to be introducing you and it kind of preparing you, setting the stage for the rest of the room or the rest of the tower. So from here, your players have some options here, right? After discovering the important things of the room, they can now use the elevator, or if you want to add staircases, that's up to you. And now they have choice. They can go back. They can go back the way they came. They can go up, they can go down. It's up to them to decide which way they want to go. If they're prepared for combat, then have them go down here and then have your separate battle map off to the side here and then conclude your combat and have it take place there. Now, because this is a special type of map, I would have the combat be super important. It's not like some random encounter. It's going to be an encounter where you're going to get something important after defeating the giant rats, or there'll be some context to why they're there and explains the larger story that's taking place on the map. If they decide to go upstairs, then they can go into the next room and do discovery. And you can see there's a lot going on in the room. For instance, there's bookshelves, there's paper floating around the room. Maybe there's magic event taking place in here, spirits, ghosts, things like that. And this is maybe a good opportunity to throw in some lore into your world. With all of these books that you have, it's a great opportunity to maybe have them read some important portions of a book or whatever it might be that you want to add more lore. This is a great opportunity to kind of expand more on the world, but also making it exciting for them. And this floor also has an outdoor area that leads to this defensive area right here where like hot oil goes down. You could have it in another session, have it to be where you're actually doing is defending the tower from intruders. You can totally do that. I've done that before. But or it's just an outside area if you want to stretch your legs, sit outside, relax, and enjoy an incredible view. Great time for theater of mind. Once they've acquired the information or the objects that they need for that next room, they can go up. Now, there are generally the way that I've set this map up is you'll notice that there are two ways that players can travel within the tower. You notice that there's a series of ladders, and then there's also this elevator right here. Okay? Usually when I have a story like this, I generally have the elevator break at some point, or I'll have an area inaccessible by the elevator, and they'll have to take a ladder instead. This is just another way to add choice to your players, right? They can choose to take the ladder to go up to an area, or they can have the choice to take the elevator. I always give my players choices because when you're in control of the movement in a map like this, your players feel like they're robbed of some agency and autonomy. And so making sure that you give them choice is super important, like I've mentioned before. This room up here, I always generally add in one room where there's a puzzle to solve because players really enjoy solving puzzles. And so what I generally end up doing with these kind of things is I generally add some kind of puzzle on the wall because it's a side view map. And so I'll generally add like a series of push buttons, symbols, levers, icons that players have to solve a particular arrangement of things. Maybe there's a series of buttons that they have to press or levers that they have to switch, or the notes that are in the level below or the books have clues to how to solve this puzzle up here. So generally I'll try to tie in all the things that I've gone through so far to help the player progress to solve this puzzle to go up. And you can see here that I even have it to where there is a puzzle here. What I generally end up doing is I'll have like a ladder, And then you'll notice that there is a gear right here. This is to indicate to your players that this ladder has a mechanism so that it does go down. So solving the puzzle here might help to bring this ladder down. And again, I generally use some kind of gear, some kind of mechanism to show that. Players won't know if the ladder can come down or not, or if they have to jump to try to reach to it, or whatever it might be, unless you give them some kind of hint that there's a mechanism to solve. So that's a puzzle floor. And then if they reach up to this next floor, then I'll generally have the players interact. You could have combat in here. Maybe the rats had tunneled through, or they found a way to get up into this place. Again, have a separate battle map, or have them discover, maybe put the NPC up here, have them talk. If they feel like each room has been too much, like there's been too much discovery, you want to break it up, then maybe talk with an NPC, add in some kind of fetch quest, like, hey, I need to find the key to this thing. Maybe the key is hidden in one of these lanterns right here. Your players have to work together to reach to get the lantern and get the key. Some kind of problem solving. It doesn't have to be a puzzle, just problem solving in general, where your players work together. And then this last floor, and not really the last floor, the last one is probably going to be up here at the top, but this higher up floor where you can see an actual flue, I put in a fireplace right here with the flue that goes to the outside here. Because this floor is one of the highest floors, it's more protected than the lower floors. So putting some kind of bedroom or some kind of place for like a wizard or whoever might live here, maybe the curator of the tower who is in charge of the tower, maybe they live at the top. So another opportunity to talk to an NPC, to push further more of the lore, whatever it might be. Each floor is going to help to propel your players forward, and they don't have to go in up and down. They don't have to follow each floor in succession. They can go up and down. I don't normally recommend backtracking, particularly on a battle map, but on an exploration map like this, backtracking, I've noticed that my players are a little bit more forgiving, but definitely on a battle map, don't do too much backtracking. I find that really annoys players. It's not so bad on a map like this, in my opinion. This last floor that's within the tower is like a storage unit. Great way to have maybe like a fetch quest. Your players want to go up there. They want to go get something that's stored up there. Maybe there's a ghost that lives up there that's going to talk to them. So many things that you can do with that. That top floor right here, this top one, this is the outside. It's the top part of the tower where players can move around. Maybe there's a big climactic scene that takes place here. Someone jumps off the top of the tower, kills himself, gets impaled on this buttress piece right here, something intense, because you're kind of climaxed to the top part of the tower. So make something very intense happen on that top floor. And then as you can see with the elevator here, just a little note, I've added in a mechanism, because what I find really helpful on any map, battle map or otherwise, is to add some kind of mechanism that explains how something works in a map. This makes it more believable, and it just makes it look nicer. It's just my opinion. Okay, so you guys get the general idea on how to necessarily run a map like this. Just your usual ability checks about perception and all that kind of stuff is going to take place on each floor with each task or puzzle or challenge that takes place on each floor. So it's not complex to run a campaign on or run a session on here. Just make sure that you have battle maps for whichever floors you want combat to take place. Me personally, I would definitely have combat be in that lower basement or cellar-like area, because I find that it is the most scariest. It kind of makes sense that you're going to have some combat there, and your players don't have to go into combat right away. They have options to go further up to the upper floors, explore, and solve the other challenges. Remember, players like choices. They do not like having to feel like everything is being dictated for them by the DM. That's more of a video game, right? The objective is to give it a more free flow. All right, so now you guys get that general idea. Now let's actually make the map itself. So I'm going to go out of here. I'm not going to save it. And we're going to create a new map. I'm going to go with fantasy battle maps. And the reason why fantasy battle maps works best for a side view building is because the battle map is already at an orthographic angle, right? Most of the stamps are at this flat orthographic projection. So they can be interpreted as a side view angle because it's orthographic. Obviously, stamps that are not flat orthographic might not work for a side view map because some perspective is included in the stamp. So fantasy battle maps or watercolor battle maps are the best style to use when making these type of maps. Again, because of the orthographic view that can be used either way, top down or side view. So we'll go ahead and choose the style. I'm going to do Ultra 4K, and I'm going to use a portrait because it's a tower. It's going to be longer vertical wise, so I should choose a aspect ratio. It's going to reflect that. Now, if the tower ends up being bigger than the actual canvas itself, I can always resize the canvas to fit the tower. So we'll create the new map. Again, I set it in 4K. If you don't have a very powerful machine, I recommend you edit in 2 or 3K because it is rather taxing, okay? All right, so first I'm going to prep the canvas. As always, I like to choose just a gray color that I use for my background on the BG, so I'll just fill. After that, I'm going to go ahead and set up a grid. The grid is going to be helpful because I want to use the snap to grid function to make sure that my proportions and then to make sure that things are in a straight line. We'll break up the straight lines that come up later by doing a little trick to kind of make things look more like a cobblestone. So we'll get to that. What I'll generally do first in the designing stage is I'll come up with a sketch. Sketches are super easy to make, and the way to approach it is to look at the block method, right? The block method is simple. You take building blocks and you place them together to make a very simple shape. Don't worry about making an extravagant sketch, right? The purpose of a sketch is something simplified, something easy to make, something easy to look at and use as a reference for the shape of your map. Again, the trick is not to go with too much detail. You'll get to the detail part when you make the tower. The sketch is just a reference. So first, I'll probably want to change the line. So I'll change it to a straight line. I'll turn off the shadow. The completed map took about 4 or 5 hours. It's a long one, Jonathan. So I'm going to choose a color. I'm going to choose red because it just pops out the most. And if you feel that the grid is too much of an eyesore on you, I recommend just bringing the opacity down a little bit. And then don't forget to, once you've selected the shape tool, then just go over to snap to grid. Okay, so we're going to make a simple sketch, and I'm going to make it tiny because making it big makes me want to fill in all those giant spaces with details. So when you're making a sketch, think small, not big. The bigger it gets, that means the more details you can add to it. Don't tempt yourself. Start with a very small sketch. And the way that I do is I start with the basic shape. And if you're not sure what shape to make, it's pretty obvious. It's whatever the building is, right? If it's a tower, it has a vertical orientation. So I'll start with a basic rectangular shape. It's going to represent the tower itself. What I should also do is, because the tower is going to be a little bit taller, if it has multiple floors, it's going to need some form of foundation, right? So I'll build a large section right here that's going to act as the foundation because it's such a tall building. And if I want to add flying buttresses because of its height to support those tall walls, then I have some space on the foundation to place those flying buttresses. Now, I don't think that the tower is enough here. We might want to add some other elements. Right now, you'll notice that the tower is symmetrical. When you're coming up with your design, it's okay to have the first parts of the sketch be symmetrical, but the trick is to add other elements to break up that symmetry. So a good example is I have a tower here, right? But because it's a tower, I'm limited on space when it comes to staircases, right? The problem is that most of the rooms will be taken up by a staircase because they take up space. To avoid that and to clear up the room, especially a side view map where I'm limited on space, I might want to make something that's called a stairwell tower or an elevator shaft. So I'll create a stairwell tower here, like this. This already begins to break up the symmetry of the sketch, right? You notice that now it's a little right heavy. So what I can do is I can turn merge shape on, and then let's just break it out a little bit more here. And now I have a nice foundation for the stairwell tower or the elevator shaft, as well as the tower proper, right? And then I might want to add some small, just very minor details like creating a little roof right here that's going to take place here. Maybe I want to have some kind of flying buttresses, which I won't create. I'll just have a flying buttress here and then maybe a smaller buttress right here. And I'll probably have this kind of go out a little bit more. I kind of like the idea of the foundation being wider than the rest of the tower. It kind of makes sense, right? A foundation needs to be sturdy and to support the weight of both the buttresses as well as the stairwell tower proper, okay? So I'm getting the general concept of the design down. If you want to have a flat roof at the top so players can go up and explore, that's fine. Or go in and add in a roof that's pointed like this. It's up to you on which one you really want to go about using. I think both work just fine. So if you have a basic concepts, here's your basic sketch, right? No details, nothing like that. Just a very, very simple sketch. I think what I'll do is I'll have the tower at the top be flat because that would be kind of nice. So now that I have my basic sketch, I can create a group and we can just call it sketch. And now I have this very basic shape that I can work with to kind of help me. Hey, first time chatter, Peter from Righteous. Glad that you're here. Yes, absolutely. I love that idea, by the way. You can have a balcony type of thing as well. Genius. Love it. Yeah, feel free to give any suggestions that you might have in the chat. I love it. So feel free to share. Once you've done that, now you can just kind of scale it to be as big as you want it to be. And then you can just put it off to the side. And now you have that there with you. So I'll go ahead and keep the grid on because I'm going to be using it. Now, next, what we need to do is to define or choose a shape that has both a stroke and a texture that's going to represent the walls, right? And so I'll just take a basic shape like this, and I'm just going to go ahead and create one in a block about this big so that I can kind of see it. And then I'll go in and start changing some things up. The first thing I'll do is I'll change the stroke. Now, the stroke can be a color or a stamp. I personally prefer a color because I don't know if a stroke will necessarily work perfectly with the style that I'm doing here. So I'll probably choose a color. Black works fine, or a brown color, or a darker gray. It's really up to you because it depends on the texture that you're using for the fill. So now we'll switch over to choose a fill. I'll open up the catalog and choose one. What we could choose is cobble, and there should be a series of like cobble textures here. I think this one might work well. You can have a more weathered version. I think there's a stone one that has, like this one right here has mossy rock, but you could also use this cobblestone floor. I think we'll go with that. I'm going to do some editing as well. I'm going to change the direction of this a little bit. So I'll change the rotation. I'm going to go to 90 degrees. So I'll change that. And then I'll probably change the texture scale a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. And I think what I'm noticing is that I want the texture to have a little bit more. I want the artifacts, the line work to stick out more. So I'll go into the option right here called Open Fill Colors. I'm going to select that. I'm going to bump the contrast. Let me move this out of the way so you can see how it looks. There you go. I'll bump the contrast, and you'll notice that bringing the contrast down takes away the line work, blending it into a gray, while bringing up the contrast makes the line work really start to pop out. And that's what I really, really want, is that more darker type of color right there. That works out well, so we're going to use that. So I think the color and that works out great. The first thing you should do probably is save this right away. So save to favorites, and then you can go over to your favorites, and now you have that available to you. Now, just like we did here with this, let's follow the same approach, right? We'll build the basic shapes first, and then we'll add the details. So we'll start with creating the foundation first, which I'll have go all the way to the ground. So we'll go all the way to the ground like this. I think about this size looks good. We can always make it a little bit bigger if we need to. I think right about there looks good. Looks about right. Now this is the foundational part. So the next part is to add the tower part. So I can go in right here like this, and we'll go ahead and build the tower part. Well, how about this high up? I think looks good. Let's do that. Let's push this out a little bit more this way. I think we can make this a little bit taller, a little bit wider, and then we can kind of push the tower out just a little bit more. There we go. And there's still enough room for a that tower. And I'm trying not to go halfway points because you'll notice that the merge has a problem with things like that. So when you are using the grid, make sure that you kind of overarch a little bit. Notice what happens when I go like this on a single cell. It becomes its own separate piece. So you kind of have to overlap a little bit for the merge to work properly. So I would avoid using half stuff like this or filling in a whole one if you want to merge. Kind of some little tips and tricks for yourself when you're putting it together, okay? Now that I've kind of put together this part right here, I can make the stairwell tower. So we'll go up to here and place it just right there like this. So now I have a stairwell tower. I noticed that they didn't connect, so I'll just put them together. I'm going to obviously put this together a little bit more this way. There we go. Stairwell tower is put together. We'll probably have to resize it again later. And then we wanted to have maybe like a little stairwell or a little buttress that's going to take place right here. And then we might want to add some staircase that goes down and this way. So let's go ahead and add that right there. Okay. So now that those elements are put together, I can start carving out some pieces or adding details to the exterior. And this is up to you on how you want to go about doing it. So what I'll do is I think I'll start with doing some minor details on the exterior. I'm going to add something what's called a batter. If you're not sure what a batter is, it's a part of the base of a structure, a wall, a tower, or whatever, where it tapers out a little bit. So let me show you how I would go about doing that and why it's important to add one of these. Batters are great for defense as you have. It kind of adds more stability to a wall. It makes it fatter, so it adds more structural integrity. On top of making it more difficult for attackers to try to attack, it leaves them more exposed. When they put a ladder or they're climbing up the batter, what happens is that it makes it easier to hit them with projectile weapons and things like that. So a batter is a nice element to add. And the batter would look something like this. You would have the angle, and then you would have it flat down like this. And now you have some batter right there. And that makes it much easier for you to attack, to protect the walls when you have this batter right here. And we can do the same thing here. Maybe we want to add a batter right here that goes this way, down here, and we'll be sure to probably resize the map. So now you have the batter there as well. Okay, so we're going to add in those batter pieces. Let's go ahead now that we've added in that, we can start putting together some of the interior and exterior parts. So let's go ahead and take the grid. I'm going to have it go above all the way up to the next layer so I can kind of see it above the sketch here or above this. And we'll start deciding rooms. And the way that I kind of go about doing this is let's go ahead and change the grid so I can kind of see the line work better. Bring the opacity up. There we go. Now I can kind of see it better. All right, here's how we're going to go about doing it. So this way I can kind of see the grid, and now I can decide on the increments in which how big each room is. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and choose the shape tool. I'll go to preview. That way I don't accidentally delete stuff that I don't want deleted, and I can edit it as need be. So what I'll do first is I'll go ahead and just choose a section. And we want to factor in, I think what I'll do is I'll make the stairwell tower. And I'll go minus. So here's our stairwell tower. And we might want to increase the width or the thickness of the wall. That's fine. And then I'll want to start creating, now that I can start putting down where the floor is. So let's put one here, like this. Let's go up a couple more. I think about 4 is a decent size, so we'll go minus here. This is going to be our first floor up. In fact, you know what? Let's not use stone. Let's actually hollow out the whole thing like this. This might actually work better because I think with a tower, to distribute the weight better, we'll have the floors themselves be made of wood so that way there's not this stone weight that kind of collapses on each floor. So we'll do that. That kind of makes more sense. And then I'll create some kind of entrance part right here, minus, and then we'll add an arch. Up here, we'll go minus. Now I have my archway that kind of leads into here. And then I'll want to create access. So I'll want to take this, go to subtract. We'll go to here and we'll delete, oopsie, not circle, my mistake. I want a square. I'll go ahead and remove this piece right here. So this is going to help you to go inward. Oopsie, I think I need to minus this. Oops, did that not go away? Let's turn off the grid real quick. I might have to change that up real quick. Sometimes this happens, and if you ever run into this, sometimes I just go with the subtract and a brush, and I'll just kind of remove that line. Sometimes you just need to save, refresh the page and save as well. Oops, doesn't look like it wants to go away. That is super bizarre. Let me go ahead and save it, and I'll refresh the page. We'll call it Tower. Here we go. All right. A garter robe is a great idea. A garter robe, if anyone's not familiar with what a garter robe is, it's basically like a bathroom. Just like I made that flue for that fireplace on that upper level, you would use that same concept. Instead of the hole or the opening or the flue going up, it would go down and it would go outside somewhere away. So a loo, basically. Yeah. Okay. So now that I've saved it, I'll just go ahead and quickly refresh the page. And we'll try to fix that error. Don't ever panic. If you feel like you're using the shape tool and a line just won't go away, just refresh the page, save, refresh the page. We'll open it back up and we'll try it again. If it doesn't work, that's okay. So let's go ahead and select this specific piece again. I'll go to subtract and we'll do snap to grid again, and we'll see if I can get rid of it. That doesn't seem to want to go away. That's okay. We're going to end up making this portion right here black anyway, so not a big deal. And I'll show you how we go about doing that. Okay, let's go ahead and resize the map because I realized that there's some shape problems distance that I'm dealing with. We'll start by just bringing it up right here like this. We'll start there. And then I can create some more space because what I want is I want to have like a cellar at the bottom. And to do that, I need a little bit more space. Yeah, it's a line from the stroke of the stairway. Absolutely, Enderlurian. Yep. And I think what happened was it was probably a bug with the preview part. And if I had just used subtract, it probably wouldn't have done that. So I'll definitely be doing some testing, bug testing on that to check it out. What's up with that, okay? All right, let's go ahead and add in the rest of these shapes part right here. Oops, my mistake. There we go. I want to unselect it. There we go. We'll go ahead and add the rest of the spaces here. There we go. Great. Okay. Now I have that, so I can go down, subtract. There we go. And now I've got some room here for this, and then I'll create that next floor. Oopsie, it looks like it's not snapping to grid, so let me turn snap to grid on. Put that back in place. There we go. Looks like it was not snapping in place, and that is problematic. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and subtract here, go all the way down to here, and then I want to have like a whole floor like right here. There's going to be something, a floor here, stairwell tower, perfect. Okay, turning out fine. So now we should establish each floor. We're going to use a stamp with a line tool for that. So I'll go here with the line. We'll go over to stamp, go into the catalog. We're going to choose wood because it's a lighter material. Again, it makes the most kind of sense to kind of use that. I'll go ahead and just make a floor. Don't worry about where you put it at first because you can move it. Make sure that snap to grid is on. There we go. I'm going to turn off the shadow. And I'll go ahead and bring it down a layer so that it's below the actual walls itself. So go ahead and select this. We'll choose layer, go down, just like that, layer down. And let's go ahead and make it a darker wood instead of a brighter one, just for now. So now I have a floor here, and I can decide where I want the floor to end and start here. So I think I'll have one floor be here. Since it's the bottom floor, we'll have it be more vaulted and taller than the other ones. And that vaulted feeling will also make it more stable as well. So what I think I'll do is I'll actually go here like this, and we'll have the bottom floor be stone and vaulted. That should alleviate some of the stress. So let's maybe have it go up to about, oopsie, I have it set to subtract, my bad. We'll go to add here. Oopsie, I want to make sure that they're connecting too. So that way they merge like this. There we go. And then I'm going to create a circle, subtract mode. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to create like this arch. Let's go to preview actually. There we go. Okay, now I can kind of control this arch here. We're going to have it go all the way over to here. I'm going to push it down all the way to here like this. It's okay if it cuts out some of the floor. That's fine. We're going to put it back anyway. Okay, just want to make sure there's this nice vaulted kind of ceiling here. Let's push it one more this way. We're going to go to subtract. There we go. And then we'll do it again right here. Put that back. There we go. So now we have a vaulted floor here. I think that works great. And then we can also take this and then just place it right on top. So a wood part of the floor there. And then we can copy and paste and kind of decide how much taller the other floors are going to be. So I can put one there. Let's see here. Let's put another one there and then another one right here. Okay. I think this is kind of a realistic number of floors that we can kind of go with. That looks good. Let's go ahead and turn the grid off for now. I'll quickly save it. Okay. All right. So now that we've kind of put those floors together, we can start creating access points to each one of those floors. So the way that that works is pretty simple. We'll want to choose where each door is. So we'll go back into here. I'm going to go to subtract and we're going to delete some of these sections here. These are going to create kind of the doors. Oopsie, my mistake. I don't want to accidentally select it. There we go. Delete that one. Delete this one. Delete this one. There we go. And this way we have kind of access points. And then from here I can move each floor piece like this. There we go. Bring it down one here. Okay. And another one right here. Let's go bring this up to here. And I think this one, we can just remove that because we've already got a stone floor. I think that works fine. So now we have those entrances that lead into each floor. That makes total sense. And I do want to create maybe like a balcony. Someone mentioned a balcony, so we might want to consider adding a balcony piece in and maybe some kind of loo somewhere. I'm not so sure. But let's put the balcony here. We'll go to subtract and we'll start with this one right here. Oopsie. Got to have the scene selected first. There we go. Okay. So another access point that goes onto here. And I think I'll probably have to expand that out to there like that, or you can create some stairs like this that goes down to this section right here. Okay. All right. That looks good. Let's go ahead and add in the parapet wall right here like this. Oopsie. Let's do it again. There we go. That looks good. Let me just take a step back and look at it. I think what I'll do is I'll also have these be vaulted as well. So the way that I'll go about doing this is I will take these as well. Let's go with 3 and 3 and then another one right here like this. And then I'll take the circle, go right here and then create some arches here. This should also help support some of the weight as well. Okay, it's all kind of coming together. You get it now? Now, what should I replace right here where there's supposed to be wall? And there's a lot of different options here that you can kind of go with. You can use the same texture, but make it darker. So for instance, I can take a piece like this. Let me go to the add mode real quick. Let me add this right here. And then you can go to the texture, adjust and bring the brightness down like this. Let me go ahead and turn the grid off so you can see it. And then you can place it right here like this. And then this can represent and that the wall goes further back. See, you're using contrast to show that there's an opening here by using a darker piece. So I can just take that same piece and then place it right here like this. Now in the other map I used the color black, but you can totally do this as well. It works just fine as long as it shows that there's some kind of indentation there. And I should do the same thing right here. Put it right there. And then another one right here. And then I'll make 2 right here like this. Copy, paste, copy, paste. There you go. So not complex, right? And then I'll make the same thing right here as well. There we go. Okay, so now you have that basic setup. And I don't really need this sketch anymore because it's already kind of put together. So we have the general idea on how we want to put that part together. What we need to do is save it and then resize it. And we need to increase a little bit, make some more room on the right side and some more room on the top side. So we'll save and then we'll resize it. and then we'll continue on with making the rest of it. So far, I really, really enjoy these maps. They are just so much fun to put together. My players really enjoy them, but what I try not to do is to take away the novelty of it. So I try not to have like 5 or 6 of these in, you know, an entire campaign, maybe just 1 or 2, because the point of making a map like this is this novelty, and I don't want to break the novelty by using these maps very often, right? Using them seldomly is kind of a great way. Oopsie, I just realized I goofed that up. I gotta go back. I didn't go off a little bit to the right. You kind of take away the novelty of a map like this when you use them often, so I don't recommend using them a whole lot. Players do love them, but they can get fatigued on them if you use them too much. It's just my opinion. Okay, let's go back here. We'll resize. I accidentally kind of didn't do it right, so we'll go here. I want it to be taller, and I want it to be a little bit wider. We'll go to confirm. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, with the I feel like that is, again, I've said this before, but I feel like that's where these kind of maps shine, is the exploration. And I kind of find that sometimes combat maps kind of are not the best maps even for exploration, because you can't see what's on the walls and things like that. So, I mean, it's just a, you know, might be a hot take, but just me personally, I find that these maps, players are more receptive to them for exploration than they are even with battle maps. But maybe my players are cut from a different cloth. I don't know. It just really depends. All right, so now that we've done that part, we need to continue to extend more of the tower, because we need to have a way for players to get into the tower. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to go back. We're going to select this stuff, and we'll extend more of the tower. So I'll go right here to make sure that snap to grid is on. And we're going to extend this further up, so it goes further up. And then I think what we'll also do is we'll create, I think the roof will use a stamp. We don't necessarily have to use, oopsie, add, my mistake. There we go. Want to make sure that there's room there. And then, of course, take one of these doors right here, copy and paste, and just place it right there. And now there's access to get up to this top floor. That's kind of important. And then we might want to consider making some flying buttresses as well. So I'll go ahead and take the grid, bring it back down to the bottom layer, and I'll switch it over to black, and then bring the opacity down. Let's make a flying buttress, because what you see here is you have this kind of tall wall right here, and so it might want to have some supports. So this is kind of this dual function thing. One, it's going to be more believable when you add realistic elements like supports, flying buttresses, but it also is an interesting architectural element that makes the map more intriguing and more interesting. It's not just a reality thing. It's also a fantastical thing, right? When adding in things like that, it makes it more interesting. Your composition will be far more interesting when you add those kind of elements. So when I'm making a flying buttress, what I'll do is I'll probably turn merge shapes off so I don't accidentally have to continue to edit and change things. So I'll start with the basic shape first, which is we want to create a pillar in which the buttress is going to sit upon. So I'll go over to the shape here, and I'm going to go to add, and I'm going to create that first step, which is right here. Here's the tower part. I'm going to turn merge shape on, my mistake. Actually, I do want to merge these parts. My mistake. So here's the pillar part of the flying buttress. The next part is to make this the buttress part that's going to connect against the wall. So we'll use the line tool here. We're going to go up like this. It's okay if that top part is a straight. It's the bottom part that you start adding the curve to. And so what I'll do to add that curve is I'll select it and then go to here like this. And then I'm going to click and hold like this. And now I can go in and rotate like this. And now I can add in, go plus, and now I have a nice buttress right here like this. Okay, and then the next part we can consider doing is usually there's a little arch, another supporting arch that takes place in the buttress. So we can go like this, and we'll create a circle like this, and then we'll go to preview like this. I'm going to go in, I'm going to create a little, let's turn snap to grid off. I don't really need that here. And I'll push this a little bit, push this down, this a little bit. Okay, let's go up a little bit more this way, and then we'll go to minus. And so you have this nice arch right here. Let's add a little bit more detail to it. So I'll go to add. We'll make sure the shapes are merged here. Oopsie, let's go back to snap to grid, my mistake. Oopsie, let's see here. What approach do I, actually, I think this is actually okay. I kind of like that arch. I think it looks interesting. Okay, that's done. Let's add one more buttress to this tower right here. This tower is super tall, so we probably want to create a buttress to kind of keep that up. So let's add in a tall buttress right here. Remember that trick here. Oh, you know, one thing I did forget to mention is usually there is the column goes further up, actually. I just realized I made that mistake. The column goes a little bit further up, like that. There we go. And we'll add details to that later. Okay, let's go here. Let's go with the shape tool, or the line tool. Shape with the pen, my mistake. We'll create the arch that goes up. We'll connect here, click hold, then rotate. Press enter. Oopsie, my mistake. I did not want to do that. Plus, actually, I think that's okay. Okay, so you have a buttress there. Let's go ahead and create the next part of the tower. Let's go here. Let's have this part go up a little bit like this. There we go, up. There we go. Okay, that looks good. All right, so we have the buttresses on each side. That looks good. You can always add more buttresses too, if you wanted to. Like this one right here, I can copy and paste this buttress because it's not attached. And I can add a series of towers on top of each other. A series of them like this if you wanted to have a whole bunch of them. They kind of just go up the side. It is a taller tower. It's totally understandable. But I think here where the buttress is fine. It'll hold up at least some of the weight of that. It doesn't have to be perfect. I know there's like maybe be a hot take, but some people hyper focus on realism, and that's fine. But because it's fantasy, it's always good to try to break the hyper focus on the reality, because your players will not be worried about, well, this tower is not structurally, and its structural integrity is in serious question. Unless your player is an engineer, they're probably not going to be worrying too much about that. And if they are, that means they're focusing, you're not doing too well a job as a DM, right? If they're kind of wandering off and focusing on other things about the structural integrity of your map or whatever, it's because you're not making the you're not making it more interesting, right? Unless it's your players where they might want to exploit a part of a tower, right? I love it. That's great. Okay, so we do need to. I realize I didn't add this here. We got to put that back. My mistake. What we want to do now is we're going to turn that grid off, and then we're going to fill in the tower parts with the add mode of the mask tool. And the reason why I do that is because I can paint the interior separately from the interior. So I'll use the add mode of the mask tool. You can turn the grid on and use the grid and just turn off your mask effects. Let's go ahead and fill in all of these spaces. This arch is outside, so we're not going to do that. I'm going to fill this in. You could also use the shape as well. I'm just going to use the grid so that way it kind of all lines up properly. There we go. Go to subtract and then minus this. And then we'll choose a color to represent the background. I think what I'll do is I like this sand color. It's a yellowish color. I think that works good. What we'll do is we'll desaturate it just a little bit. So I'll go into my options here, into advanced settings, go to color, and I'll desaturate it a little bit. And I don't mind it's being a little bright, because I actually want it to contrast against the walls. So notice that I'm using a texture that doesn't have a lot of artifacts. Notice that the wall has these crazy stone artifacts in it. When you choose a background color for the walls for the interior, don't choose a busy texture. And the reason why is because it will clash with the busy artifacts of the wall texture. So this way, the walls of the interior will pop out in contrast to the busy walls of the exterior, right? So then I'll just go on like this, and I'll just go and fill FG layer. And now I have this nice color. It doesn't have as many artifacts, and it pops out from the wall parts, right? So it makes sense to kind of do that. Okay, Now, I did mention earlier, let's go ahead and bring this down a layer, my mistake. There we go. I'm going to go ahead, and there is a trick that you can do to not make the lines all look so straight. When you look carefully at the walls so far, you notice that some of the stones get cut off, like right here, this stone is cut off, and it looks weird with the line work. There's a cool trick that you can use to make it look like it's more cobbled. So what you'll do is you'll make sure that you select the shape, so that way the exact parameters are going to be when you go to add to it. So I've selected that, go to the shape, go to brush, and bring it all the way down to 0. Then you want to zoom in real well, and then go in, and wherever you see a stone that's kind of cut off a little bit, just go in and just add a little bit here and there on those sections. And what that will do is it will kind of break up that flat line that you see, and it will make it look more realistic. I feel this works well. Now, this is a bit time consuming because you have to go into each part and kind of add in a little bit to it. But this method is a great way to break up those lines, because I personally do not think that it doesn't look very good when all the lines are perfectly straight like that. So we're going to break each one of these up. I'm going to go through, do every single one of them so that you can kind of see what it ends up looking like when I do it. I'm not going to do the floor pieces. I'm going to have the floor be flat. But when it comes to the vertical part of the walls, I'll go ahead and do this technique. So I'll go in. This is going to take a little bit of time to do all this stuff. I think the last time when I made that first one, it took me about 5 to 10 minutes to do it. So it doesn't take too long, but it definitely pays off. And I don't want to zoom out and show it to you yet, because I want to get as much done as possible here. And you can kind of see what it looks like when you do it, because it just looks so much more interesting. So we'll do that. Don't be afraid to do both the interior parts where the wall is and the exterior. It's going to be a little bumpy either way, right? So worth it. Even on the arch, break up the arch a little bit. It's okay if it's not a perfect straight line arch, right? There would be some continuation of the stone, and this is a great way to kind of do that. There we go. Add a little one here. Let's put 2 together. When you're doing it, there is a kind of a trick that I follow, and that is don't have them all be perfectly equidistant from each other. Notice that these 4 right here are all almost equidistant from each other, but then you'll notice this one right here is a little higher up and further away. Do not have it be symmetrical in a sense where each stone that's popping out is perfectly equidistant from each other. That's going to break up the reality, I feel, of it. It's much more realistic if you end up having the bumps be not equidistant from each other, and cluster a couple together as well. So you'll have 1, then 2, like that. That will make it much more interesting. I think even the flying buttress, it's okay to kind of add in a little bit here and there. There we go. Again, it is time consuming, but it's totally worth it. And this is a master class, and I know a lot of you here do have some patience. Now, just a quick kind of heads up, this is not a for sure, but I might have to cancel all the remaining master classes for the rest of the month. There is a big push to get 2.0 out, which I totally understand. So we might have to cancel some of those masterclass streams so that I can put in more time to work on some of the 2.0 stuff, because there's a big push to get that stuff out soon. So that may or may not happen. I'll keep you guys posted. There's going to be a meeting tomorrow. We're going to discuss it, and I will keep you posted on that front. So any announcements about that will be mentioned probably tomorrow after that meeting that I have, okay? All right. And I apologize in advance if it comes to that. I really don't want to have to cancel those master classes. They are some of my favorite. Absolutely, Jonathan Frost. I'd love to do a side view cave. I've made a couple of them already in the past, but I can show you how to make them. I think we do have a much older stream on how to make it, but it's just so outdated with where the tools are now. It doesn't really make any sense to defer you to that video. I do agree. I think what we could do is I could do a masterclass next month on how to make a side view cave. They are epic. They're fun to make. If you're going to have combat in them, of course, just make sure that you... oopsie, undo that real quick. My mistake. There we go. We're almost there. Oopsie. I did subtract. My mistake. I didn't want to do that. Yeah, I'm super excited for 2.0 as well. It's going to be awesome. And I'll try to showcase some of it in this stream or in future streams. I am totally bad at that. I totally admit. I'm just so stuck in the ways that I've been doing it. Okay, almost there. Okay, let me take a step back and look at it. And you can see the difference that it has, right? It already looks a little bit better with some of the stones protruding out. I think I might want to add a couple more. I usually take a step back and then go to some places that seem flatter than others. So this seems fine. Oh, there's none on these wall portions. Yes, absolutely, totally better. Nice little trick to kind of put things together, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to make sure I select this whole thing. There we go. Add that in there. Oopsie, for some reason, did I accidentally lock it? Let me double check here. Oh, I see. These are separate. My mistake. There we go. Okay. Awesome. Okay. There we go. Just continue adding in more of these. Almost there. Okay. Looking good. We'll definitely have to do a part 2 and a part 3, perhaps. Where are we at for time? 56? Yes. We're definitely reaching that hour mark. But yes, I think overall, this looks pretty good. This is pretty much where I wanted it to go. It's not too dissimilar from the one that I made previously. Maybe some extra changes that I made to it here. But I think what we'll do is we'll save, and then we'll go ahead and call the stream good. And then next month, we'll probably continue this with a part 2, which we're going to be adding in. We'll be doing interiors, basically, as well as how to create access, like some staircases where access goes into the tower. And then we'll go over assigning each room a particular theme, and then events that will take place in each room. We'll continue adding details and all this other stuff. So there's a lot to cover further in this stream. But so far, I think overall, the first hour turned out really well. We came up with the method. We came up with the design. Super easy to do. Just remember to do that small sketch first, so that way you're not pounding your head against the wall relentlessly, trying to figure out what shape should I create. Don't wring your neck over it. Make that small sketch. Trust me, it helps. If you don't want to make the sketch in Inkarnate, draw it, hand draw it. Whichever way you want to do it. Remember, the beauty of a sketch is it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be total shit, and it's not a problem. Half of my sketches look like crap anyway, so it's not a big deal. Don't beat yourself up over it, okay? All right, so next episode, part 2, we will work on the access and the interior. So I'm super excited about that. Everyone, please stay safe and healthy. Merry map making, and I will see you all on Friday when we make a watermill, okay? All right. Merry map making, everyone. I'll see you all soon, okay? Bye.